Welcome to the Books Brothers podcast. We are a book club turned podcast where each week we read chapters from books, reflect on them as they relate to our life, and connect with each other by sharing our experiences. I'm Rob.
I'm Stalen.
I'm Matt.
I'm Flez.
I'm Thomas.
And I'm Garrett.
We are excited for Season 3, where we will be reading and discussing the book, The Blue Zones, 9 Lessons for Living Longer from the People Who've Lived the Longest by Dan Buettner. This book studies places with the highest centenarian populations, those living to 100, to understand how they are living.
Rob, have you started walking or biking to work?
No, not at all.
How come? You're a mile away. We were just talking about this.
Yeah, it's like a mile, 1.2.
Is it uphill
But
both
here's
ways?
the thing, though. Once I get back from home, I do my routine, walk my dog, 30 minutes, whatever. Then I do jump on my bike back to essentially work and work out and then bike back. So I have been doing that.
Why not just incorporate the biking into your commute? That's an extra that's basically 2.25 miles a day.
It'd take me 20 minutes to get to work instead of 4.
To bike 1.2 miles?
No, I thought to walk.
He's taking his unicycle.
Plus,
That must be a really big incline.
you can't run the hair that early in the morning,
Oh, yeah.
Why?
I think that makes sense, Rob.
In today's episode, we will be discussing Chapter 4, The American Blue Zone. We tune in as Dan Buettner visits and studies our nation's leading and only blue zone in Loma, California, 60 miles east of LA. The longevity success in this California city is directly tied to the high concentration of Seventh-day Adventists, a Christian denomination who follows strict health and lifestyle practices. Some of these practices include no smoking, no alcohol consumption, and discourages the consumption of meat, rich foods, and caffeinated drinks. The Adventists especially take care of their body because they believe the body and soul are one, and that when Adventists die, they are more or less lying in an unconscious state, and that God will resurrect them later upon the return of Christ. I believe this is fundamental as to why they focus so much on their body and soul, but especially their body's health, so as to be ready to pick back up and awake where they left off when Christ comes again. I found that very, very interesting. It makes sense why they take such good care of their body, because they want to be ready to go on their second life. So my first question to you guys, it's a 2-part question. So in the first 3 blue zones, we've seen how limited to no eating of meat has been a consistent trend. How many times a day do you eat meat? And then second part of the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well would you say you take care of your body? So your meat intake a day and how well you take care of your body on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, I would say I eat red meat 3 to 4 times a week, probably max.
Wow.
3 to 4 times a week, probably, which is still more than Adventists are doing for sure. And all the zones.
Yeah, I feel like we eat chicken and fish most often, and I'd say we probably have red meat like 1 to 2 times a week. I do think that with this people group, as well as with the Sardinians, I think that it did make me think more about doing a more, not vegetarian, but just taking more meat out. It's something that Ruth and I have kind of go back and forth on, and we've had periods where we try to only do meat like once or twice a week, and right now we're probably doing it, 4 days a week.
I'm surprised by that. I mean, I eat meat. I'm talking beef, chicken, pork twice a day, honestly. I mean, lunch and dinner, eggs in the morning. I know we kind of ruled that out, but during Lent, we have been obviously eating more fish, but man, fish is so good. It makes us definitely want to eat more fish. So we're kind of looking forward to incorporating that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the second part, it's something that I do feel like we talk about fitness stuff a fair amount in general. And this group, I would say, compared to like the average group of guys, is probably significantly more active. I myself, I've been doing like long distance running for six or so years now. And before then it was regular weightlifting. But, when I say long distance, I'm, doing like right now I'm training for a 30-mile race, and still trying to like lift weights a couple times a week. But I would say it, to speak for everyone, obviously y'all can jump in, but we're a really active group in general. I do feel like I sometimes use that as an excuse to not eat as healthy, or to like not worry about something as much, like sleeping well, good sleep habits. And those are things that I think as I've gotten older on, I've had more desire to change and have more health in those areas too. So I think the question was on a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, how will I take your body? I think I would say probably like 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I was going to say 8 as well. And it's more so along the lines of maybe sometimes pushing a little too hard with exercise, which is kind of counterproductive at times. It can be if you overdo it.
Overexertion.
Yeah, overexertion. Maybe trying to do too many of these health hacks in one day. The cold exposure, the sauna, meditating, yoga nidra, lifting, running, praying, it all adds up. It could take up half your day.
That's a normal day for Fluss.
His whole day is a morning routine.
Basically, yeah. That's pretty true. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, no, I don't eat a ton of red meat. Really rarely. A lot of chicken, a lot of eggs, and then whey protein. My main sources of protein. That's mainly just convenience, probably. I would probably eat more red meat if it was like more convenient, It's just easier to throw in some Costco chicken nuggets in the microwave.
Represent. Represent the Kirkland crew. I'm there with you, man.
You guys do that?
I sent Rob a picture on, what was it, Saturday? I sent him a picture in front of the $1.50 hot dog sign at Costco, man. Happy as a clam, dude. So happy.
Especially in Hawaii, that's like, stealing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, they're giving them away. It's just like, how can you not eat like 6 in a row? Yeah, so that I eat red meat 3 to 4 times a week, and that's all in one day at Costco.
Wait, how is that possible? You just stay there?
6 dogs
stay there over 4 days. They're like, sir, you got to get out of here. And you're like, well, you got the couch, the TV, the meat, the free samples. I could live here.
He and Joey Chestnut are friends.
No, I was going to say, I probably don't even rate myself that high. I would say a 6 or a 7 because I feel like my physical fitness is not balanced in a good way with like my functional and my sedentary stuff. Like I sit at a desk way too much. And then functionally, I don't do that much, just like normal movement, like walking, versus just like, okay, I'm going to go into the gym and lift some weights. Like I should have more hours doing functional things than I do like a controlled weightlifting movement when it comes to my physical fitness. But at this point in my life or career or whatever, I don't necessarily feel like I do. So I would say I'm a little off balance in that sense.
I'm surprised by that, just because out of all of us, I think it's fair to say that you live in the most exotic, luxurious place out of all of us, being in Hawaii. Part of probably why you moved there was to maintain or to have kind of an outdoorsy lifestyle. And I mean, you've definitely lived into that and you've done a lot. And you've been there, what, like 4 or 5 years now?
No, 8.
8 years? Dang.
Yeah, it's a long
time. So maybe
time.
Year 8, it's like, okay, maybe I'm less into that and I'm more into like life. But due to the proximity, are you almost surprised that you're as sedentary as maybe you think you'd be?
I can't tell, man. I think it's one of two things. Either my baseline is higher than it would be in March in Missouri, because like I just know I could be out there doing so many more things and I'm not. Or maybe it's the fact that I feel like I need to buckle down right at this time in my life and do a lot of work rather than going out and doing a lot of fun, active stuff, because it is expensive to live here and I have to make up for that somehow.
Right.
Yeah, your comment about the baseline, I think, is pretty key in answering the question, because I'm thinking of yesterday, I went to the dentist, and the hygienist will like floss your teeth, and I floss every day, so it's not a big deal. There's like one or two spots where I'm like, that kind of hurt. And I decided to ask her, I said, hey, how many on average, if you just had to make a, guess, how many people bleed when you floss their teeth? And I was expecting like half. And she said, probably 80 to 90%.
Yeah.
And that just struck me. So it's like, oh man, I forgot to floss, or I'm not flossing that often. Well, I guess it's kind of like, where's your baseline? Where's your standard? So Thomas, it's interesting hearing your response, but I think of your response, just how you look, how active I know that you are. And I think of how my wife describes her day with the patients that she sees. And compared to where your baseline is, you'd probably be off the charts. You'd probably be an 11 or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really hard question to answer because everybody's got a different perspective on it, right?
Yeah. But one thing I was thinking of, I'm evolving your question, Rob, so forgive me. You said on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you take care of your body? Perhaps like an interesting way to answer it is, how would you have rated yourself before starting reading this book and now? Because I'd probably agree with Stalen. Before the book, I probably would have said an 8, maybe even a 9. Just a variety of exercise. I feel like I eat fairly well. I try to stay away from red meat. I have it probably once a week, maybe twice a week. But then also chicken and seafood are common. So it's at least once a day for meat, period. But now that I'm reading this book, and like we've talked about, walking, I just feel like has been very underrated. And doing activity throughout the day, I would agree. I'd probably agree more with Thomas after reading this book. I'd probably downgrade myself from like an 8 to probably more like a 6 and say there's a lot of room for improvement in the little like the everyday moments of life.
Have you guys heard of the concept of exercise snacking?
No, but that sounds pretty fun.
So there's data. You take like 2 minutes a couple of times throughout the day. You just pick something that's challenging to do for 2 minutes straight. So I think in the study, they had like people that didn't even really work out. They just had them, run up and down stairs in their office building for 2 minutes, a couple times a day sporadically. And, their health measures all improved tremendously and all that. So I've started doing it because I don't like feeling like I'm not healthy. Feel like and so I picked burpees, which I hate burpees.
Oh, that's brutal.
But I don't jump. So I'm doing them easily, but it's still hard. It's still way more than what I used to do. It still gets my heart rate up a little bit. But just like, it's kind of interesting. It's like 2 minutes. Come on. It's like anybody can just say 2 minutes. Like your meeting at work, it's done 10 minutes early. Go up and down the stairs a couple times, like it's so easy to do that. You don't even necessarily need like a super structured routine if you're just somebody that wants to like have any sort of health,
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool though. I mean, I think that's a really great idea and super practical. And I mean, yeah, I do think that we get caught up in like the idea of like, oh, I have to have like, if I'm going to exercise, I've got to have like the right clothes on, the right shoes on. I've got to drive somewhere. And there's a lot of like ways that we complicate it. Funny burpee story though. I feel like everyone hates burpees, right? That's like everyone's least favorite exercise. It's probably like 3 years ago. I had a PT student and I like made the joke about how no one likes burpees. And she was like, oh no, I love burpees. And I was like, all right, like do 10 right now then. And she didn't. And so it's like, do you really though?
That's funny.
I actually don't mind burpees.
Really?
They're okay.
Like after how many?
Drop down and do 10 right now, Matt.
Few are not that bad.
Yeah.
50.
After 50. 50? That takes a while.
It does take a while.
Me.
Wait, you can do 50 burpees without stopping?
Probably.
Jumping as high as you can?
Not trying to brag, but probably.
You're lucky there's not more room behind that desk, Matt.
Whenever I do weightlifting type workouts, it's very aerobic, very active.
Yeah.
Burpees are often a part of my routine instead of just, doing curls or bench press. I like to do active movements.
Rob, shots fired.
See, Matt, it sounds like you use them to like warm up sometimes. So
I do.
I always do jumping jacks warm up, and I still remember one time I was at the gym doing jumping jacks before I like started like working out, and I heard one guy say to his like training partner, I heard him say, "Is that guy really doing jumping jacks?"
Dang.
I wasn't gonna say it, but
I guess I'm in elementary school again.
Too funny. Yeah, I don't know that I would do jumping jacks before I stood up on a platform, but warming up is definitely important.
You could really play some mind games with your competition, plus.
Yeah, just psych them out.
That's funny.
Like doing jumping jacks.
I know we're off topic, but I'll get to your question, Rob. But one of my workouts that I like to do, I don't know, maybe once a month, it's like a modified double press, where you do a push-up holding dumbbells, and you go down, you do like the rowing pull-up, and then you do another push-up to the other arm, and then you get up on your feet, do a squat and a thruster.
Ooh.
And that's 1 rep, and you do 100 of those.
Oh my goodness.
That's brutal.
You didn't see it, but I just threw up.
So after doing those, burpees are fine.
You're a savage.
Yeah, no kidding.
So after you do those, you would definitely rate yourself a 10, is what you're saying.
No, to answer your question, Rob, I would say before reading this book, probably 5, 6.
What? No.
Mostly because of what I eat. I don't eat all that healthy. I like to snack throughout the day.
Should
A lot
exercise
of junk
snack
food.
instead.
I should. Yeah. So after reading this book, I've been trying to have some better eating habits, and my self-discipline when it comes to eating is not great. Never really has been. So I still find myself snacking all the time. Like we went to this parade for St. Patrick's Day, and my kids got a ton of candy. So there's just candy in my house, and it's just so convenient to grab a piece during the workday.
Scarcity brain.
And so many thoughts. So first, this is what I thought of earlier that I just remembered. Do you guys fidget? Like,
yeah.
Like you like move your leg up and down, or like, when you're sitting, stuff like that.
All day, every day.
Makes sense. I mean, we're all fairly lean, so I would have guessed that. But that is like, makes a huge difference. Just fidgeting your leg like that.
What? In your health?
And just
How many years does it add to my life?
That's a great study. You should send that to some university. But it's called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So people that fidget more tend to be a lot leaner. So just a thought.
That's a great point. It's the small stuff that really adds up over time that really does a lot for at least your metabolism, right?
Yeah. I think just getting into the episode, I would have rated myself like a 7. I'm with Matt. I snack a lot. It's been interesting. My workout shake after reading this book, it used to be like 4 ingredients, and now it's like 10. Like I throw some turmeric in there. I got the chia, the flax. I get some spinach or kale. I've been throwing a date in there too. It's been kind of fun to experiment with some things, but
Nice.
Guys, full transparency here too. I did not eat my first salad until freshman year of college.
Oh man.
What?
Can you believe that? Chad made my first salad in college at Garce Hall.
I think if you were to say, like, you're from Nebraska, if
Absolutely.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors.
Introducing Thumb Tucks, elegance for your toe thumbs. Ever felt like your toe thumbs stick out at fancy events? Wish there was a way to dress them up? Say no more. Thumb Tucks is here to turn your thumb self-consciousness into thumb confidence with the world's first formal wear for your thumbs.
You can't even finish.
Why Thumb Tucks? Discreet elegance. Each Thumb Tucks is designed to make your toe thumbs look sleek and sophisticated. Think of it as a little black dress or a sharp tuxedo, but for your thumbs.
Get out of here.
Comfort meets class. Crafted from luxurious, stretchable fabric, Thumb Tucks ensures your thumbs not only look their best, but feel their best too. One size fits toe. Adjustable.
Wait. What?
Adjustable for that perfect fit, whether your thumb is more of a big toe or a little toe in disguise. Tonight's highlight is the James Bond thumb. A thumb tuck so suave it comes with its own tiny bow tie and cufflinks, because your thumbs deserve to be undercover agents of style. Thumb tucks. Dress your thumbs for success.
Boom! Love it. Beautiful.
Now back to the show.
All right, guys. So, hey, to summarize the secrets to Loma Linda and really the Adventist success, the following are keys to their longevity. So I broke it out into diet, exercise, spiritual/social, similar to how we've been kind of structuring this. So they eat meat in moderation, eat more plants. The author talked about, like, kind of similar to Garrett, your quote, but just adding like a good 10 years to your life. So they say that this could potentially add about 2 years to your life. But he did share some stats from some of the studies, just how like vegetarians live significantly longer than white Caucasian men or women who are Californian, but not Adventists. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. And that, you know, if they were non-vegetarian Adventists, they had about double the risk of heart disease as vegetarian Adventists did. Eating various vegetables is linked to decreased rates of lung, colon, ovarian, and prostate cancer. And tomatoes play a part in that with reducing the ovarian and prostate cancer. Also shared some statistics on snacking on nuts. So Adventists who consumed nuts at least 5 times a week had about half the risk of heart disease of those who didn't. Eat an earlier, lighter dinner. Matt, I think you were kind of talking about, you know, not snacking later on in the evening. I know I struggle with that. He shared a quote. It was, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So basically a linear line down in your consumption as the day goes on. And then drinking plenty of water. So men who drank 5 to 6 glasses of water a day had 60 to 70% less risk of a fatal heart attack than those who drank considerably less water.
How big are these cups of water?
Glasses.
30 ounces.
Dang.
I believe 12-ounce glasses, potentially.
Big gulps, huh?
Hey. Then there were some exercise components. Get regular, moderate exercise. Thomas, I believe when the Netflix documentary came out, you know, by the time that this book was written and then the Netflix documentary came out, pickleball kind of came full storm. So I believe there were people playing pickleball. So that moderate, regular exercise is definitely helping. And then maintain a healthy BMI. I know this is kind of a tricky metric, right? With the BMI, because by definition, we'd all be obese or overweight, but we're not. But just watching your intake coupled with like your activity can help lower blood pressure and cholesterol. And then finally, there were some spiritual social components. So finding a sanctuary in time or observe the Sabbath. So on page 149, the author said, the Sabbath, or he quotes somebody, an Adventist, the Sabbath reminds us that we are creatures, not creators. It recognizes their finite capabilities and dependence on God. And I thought, the Gregorian calendar, right? So technically, if they're Seventh-day Adventists, their seventh day would be on Saturday. And so their Sabbath is actually on Saturday and not Sunday. And then because they're kind of like a unique breed or a unique denomination, spending time with like-minded people, right? So they reminded me of Mormons in a sense where it's like they kind of stick together. And it definitely sounds like by sticking together, they encourage each other on their longevity journey because of maybe some of their more extreme social and dietary rules or obligations than say other denominations, and also not smoking. So final question here to bring us home on Loma Linda, the only American blue zone. What did you guys find most interesting about the Adventist lifestyle? And are there any lifestyle secrets you're looking forward to implementing in your life?
So I have quite a few thoughts on this. The most interesting, to answer your question, Rob, is their whole emphasis seems to be focused on health, which is not what I'm used to from what I have seen in churches and what other religions that I know about. Adventists have the most focus on health and eating right and taking care of your body, which I really admire. So after reading this chapter, I attended a church service, and I just found it funny because the pastor started off his sermon talking about how when we go to the movies, most people just don't go to the movies. You go to the movies and buy popcorn. And you don't just buy, the small popcorn. You can buy the huge bucket and get unlimited refills for just a little bit more. And he was essentially saying, if you go to the movies and you don't get popcorn, you're crazy.
Or you're sneaking it in.
He said it jokingly, and it actually really tied well into his message. But I just found it really funny that this pastor was encouraging eating super unhealthy popcorn, and a lot of it, where after reading this chapter, the Adventists really focus on eating healthy things.
I mean, I personally sneak in Junior Men's, but
Either way.
What about the whole concept of like treating your body like a temple or whatever?
Exactly.
I was just going to say that. Bible.
Yeah. That went through my head too. Like, why don't other churches really emphasize that?
Yeah. That is,
seems like a lot of the churches that I've been a part of, there's not much of an emphasis on taking care of your body when it comes to food and lifestyle and activity. And I kind of wish there was more of that. Another thought I had is in the book, he mentions that Adventists get a lot of their direction on healthy eating from Genesis. Genesis 1:29, which says, God said, behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be food. Great. That's awesome for them. But what about a few chapters later when God tells his people to eat meat? In Genesis 9, literally a few chapters later, God says, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. So why do they just take that one section from Genesis 1 and ignore the section from Genesis 9?
Absolutely.
Just a thought.
I mean, it's definitely a good point, Matt. And but I do think it's fair to acknowledge that this is from Dan Buettner's perspective of the faith.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
just some things that were going through my mind.
You just summed up the conundrum with every single religion known to man.
That's what I was just about to say.
Exactly.
Look at your own denomination, whatever you are, and which passages your church take more seriously than others? I think we could all find some.
I wish my church emphasized healthy eating a little bit more. I think it's important. Take care of your bodies. I really do.
Yeah.
So other than that, I really found this chapter intriguing because it is in the United States. And I think I can relate to this lifestyle a little bit more as something that we could incorporate into our own lives here and now. If we make a few decisions, little decisions, and stick to them, then we could have our own blue zone with our own community based on some of these things that the Adventists are doing. So I found this chapter much more relatable than the previous two. I don't know. Eat more nuts.
Straight up. That's kind of what I got to. That's like one of the things that I took away, just some of the statistics on that. It makes me want to, rather than going for pretzels or chocolate covered pretzels or chocolate or chips, it's like, why not grab some almonds or pecans or pistachios or whatever, right? Knowing that that's far healthier and a better use of calories than all the others.
How much of our actions and the things that we think about and the things that we aspire to are heavily affected by the community that we're in? That's what I thought about when you mentioned this. If everybody in your community has a certain standard for health and a certain lifestyle, you by default are going to feel like I better, like it's kind of built into us. Like I better keep up with this so that I don't get left behind or I'm not the odd one out or whatever. Right. And I think in the United States, at least, it kind of feels like the opposite has become the norm, is kind of the sedentary lifestyle, the unhealthy diet, fast food, just doing whatever's expedient rather than what's healthy and what takes a little more time maybe to prepare. So it's no wonder so many people, I think, have a hard time living like the people here that we're kind of studying in this book. It's just not something that's kind of in our face every day to try and keep up with. Our standards are not really there.
To kind of speak more on to one of the things that Matt had mentioned about how, the Adventists, that it seems more like relatable. I think you mentioned, Matt. I think so far of the blue zones that we've read about, this one to me in a lot of ways was not as interesting. And I think because it wasn't like as exotic, as unique, and really at the end of the day, like my takeaway is like, just keep it really simple. And really simple is not that fun. Right. And so like, if Ruth and I, as I had mentioned to you guys, Ruth and I did like a traditional Sardinian dinner after we did that episode. And that was super fun. It was just a fun date night. It felt like kind of like a variant of the norm. I'd recommend anyone to do that kind of thing for a date night. But at the same time, if I was like, hey, Ruth, we're going to have just like we're going to make a really simple meal tonight. And like, that's going to be our date night. It's just not quite as like fun and exotic. And so I think that to the question, so what's most interesting is that, hey, it's like, these aren't big, complex differences. These are like making the simple, correct choices. And then I think from that, like, are there secrets that you're looking forward to and implementing from how they live? I think just that increased simplicity. And one thing that I joke about sometimes is like, I don't have to enjoy my food, or like exercise, for example. Like I don't have to enjoy it. Like it's not there to be enjoyed. I really loved in this chapter, Dan Buettner was sitting down with one of the Adventists, and he mentioned that this Adventist gave him a glass of tap water without ice that was like room temperature. And that's something that I do sometimes, like as a kind of like a reminder of like, I don't have to have perfectly chilled water. It's just water. It's what I need it for. And so I think this chapter from you is like really just a reminder of keep it simple, make the correct decisions, don't overindulge. And then really to the social side of things, this group, they have this common faith to him. And I think faith plays a huge role in your longevity, is because it plays a huge role in your purpose of life. We talked about that a lot whenever we did Man's Search for Meaning well over a year ago now, where having a faith and having a foundation of faith is really helpful in kind of grounding an individual. And similarly, as we talked about, kind of as we compare it to the Okinawan Blue Zone, like the concept of like Ikigai, it's like a really, like, there's that similar thread of like purpose, and how purpose helps us to just not make, quick and easy, dumb decisions, but rather make wise, responsible decisions.
I would just say the couple things that I would add are volunteering. It's not something that I've done consistently, and it's something that's been on my heart for a long time that I've wanted to do consistently. And so I think that is something that I'm not going to try to do. I'm going to do.
Nice. Log those hours, man.
Yeah. No, but I mean, anytime you're depressed, go do something for somebody else and you feel better. So it's just like it's at a very basic level. That's awesome. So you're doing a good thing. But the other thing is just getting pounded with, eating more vegetables. I don't eat enough vegetables, and I hate vegetables. I just can't stand them. I'm like your typical dude that like eats high protein and not enough vegetables. But I've been adding more to my smoothies and trying to get them in there somehow. So I had spinach and carrots and a little bit of kale to the smoothies, just to get them in. Low sodium V8, it's some vegetables.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but again, with that, like there's this whole idea that like meat is bad for you, or like it's just kind of, it's hard to say that, because a lot of times like me, someone that eats a lot of meat, I don't eat any vegetables. Well, what if I did eat a lot of vegetables, but I also eat meat? So like the data on that is kind of inconsistent. And vegetables have a lot of enzymes that, may counteract some of the quote unquote negative aspects of meat. And so that's just something to take into consideration too, when you see, some of the things in here about how being fully plant-based may be better. It's kind of hard to make that be a blanket statement. So, yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things in this book has been everything in moderation and everything in balance,
Yeah.
Most blue zones, they do consume meat, but just at a fraction of what we're consuming. So once a week rather than once a day. So I don't think it's necessarily anti-meat. But yes, there are vegetarians and whatnot. And if people want to do that, that's great. But yeah, I don't think it's a all-out indictment on meat. And again, there's probably multiple layers. Is it McDonald's burgers every day kind of meat? Or is it salmon, right? High in omega-3, things like that.
I mean, you combine that with what Stalin was saying about things being sensationalized or being simple, and you look at all the fad diets in the United States, and they're almost all extreme in one way or another.
They're religions, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you look at like the keto diet or the paleo diet, or you're always excluding something to the extreme in order to achieve some kind of miracle secret that's going to make you ripped and live forever. And it just doesn't exist. I mean, this book is a great example as to why you shouldn't listen to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the moderation thing is key. Garrett, reminds me of what you were talking about at work the other day, just how you have a lot of things at your disposal that you can eat because it's free and it's there, and how you have to really stick to your guns on, no, I packed this lunch and I know that this lunch is healthy and I'm going to stick to it. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to eat any Krispy Kreme donut that I wanted an hour before I was going to eat lunch. And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that because I've prepared this lunch and I'm not going to ruin that lunch with a donut, right? So kind of tying that scarcity mindset of just not falling into that, repeatability or quick opportunity is definitely something that I'm taking away from this chapter. So
Can't believe you passed up that opportunity.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Books Brothers podcast. Join us next week as we discuss Chapter 5, The Blue Zone in Costa Rica. If you haven't yet, grab the book, The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner, so you can better follow along with us. If you've enjoyed listening or benefited from our conversation, please subscribe, give us a review, and share with a friend that you want to connect deeper with. Lastly, we would love to hear your thoughts. You can reach us by email at connect@booksbrotherspodcast.com or on Instagram at booksbrotherspodcast. Until next week, read, reflect, and connect.
And now more from our sponsor, Thumbtucks. Here are a few thumb transformations. First from Tina T. I was always self-conscious about my toe thumbs at weddings. With Thumbtucks, I'm now raising my glass with confidence. Larry L. says, my toe thumbs used to be party poopers, but thanks to Thumbtucks, they're now the life of the party. Thumb Gala Collection. Order within the next 24 hours to get an exclusive invitation to our Thumb Gala event, where your dressed-up digits can mingle, mix, and make a statement. Step into confidence. Thumbtucks isn't just about covering up. It's about stepping out into the world with your thumbs held high. It's about embracing every part of you, especially the parts you once hid away. Thumbtucks. Dress your thumbs for success.